Welcome to another episode of Foresight TV. It is Friday, almost noon everywhere. I'm in California, so we haven't quite hit that noontime hour. I have a really cool guest today. We are going to be talking about the state of senior living and nursing homes and what makes the difference between great operators and not so great operators with Suzanne Koenig, Susie Koenig. And so we are going to jump into our conversation right after this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Every time I kick off that intro, we have got an intro and an outro that we use. And every time I do that, I'm just terrified that I'm going to end up hitting the outro button and it's going to look really dumb. But so far, that's never happened. So, Susie, let's actually start with who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I feel honored to be part of your show. It's such a well-known, really great show for people, to really understand the industry. So thank you. I'm honored to be your guest today.
And you do what?
And so I am part of, I own a healthcare, it's really kind of like a boutique healthcare seniors housing specialist and advisory. And we go in and we get hired either by lenders, lawyers, by the courts, by operators, by landlords, many different people to come in and improve the operations. We may at some time come in and become court appointed. And that is when we become court appointed as a receiver and take over an operation, maybe a senior housing, could be an assisted living facility, it could be a skilled nursing facility, it could be portfolios of skilled nursing facilities and senior living, assisted living, ALFs, memory care. And we then become an officer of the court and we oversee the operations because then my management company comes in, manages it for the receiver. Oftentimes, I'll be named as the receiver, depending on each state has different rules, whether or not it's an individual or if it's an entity. And at that point, most of the states have individuals. So I usually get named as the receiver. And then I oversee the asset depending on what the court, the lender, usually the lenders are the ones that petition for a receiver. So usually what the lender is looking at in that case and in the receiver order, it kind of spells out in my court appointment. I may either put it up for sale with an investment banker or a broker, or I may tee it off to a new lessee, or I may just operate it and improve the operations. And at that point, decide what to do. So lots of different things.
So this is really fascinating to me. Let's actually start by, I want to ask this question because you're going to be the expert on this. How do these operators get in trouble? What are the things that you see that are in common with operators who get their communities, their facilities into such bad shape that you need to come in?
Yeah, Steve, thanks. So there's a lot of reasons. And some of the reasons are people buy these facilities and really have no idea how to run them. Like many of the people that own the OpCo, they may own the OpCo and the PropCo, but they're just real estate people. And then they'll hire somebody to go in, maybe an executive director, if it's a assisted living facility, or even a licensed nursing home administrator, but they won't know how to really run it, and they'll rely on that individual. And I'm not saying that an individual may not be able to run a facility well, but obviously, it's no longer what it used to be. The industry has become super complicated, a lot of different things, and you need to have a manager or somebody that you can rely on, a consultant or somebody that can be there for every step of the way, whether it be the MDSs on the skilled nursing side, the regulatory, the clinical policies, procedures, so many different things, financial. It's become a very complicated business. It's no longer the mom and pop kind of facility that in the 70s and 80s and 90s that these facilities were. And also, oftentimes training, like many people hire people in these positions and they really don't have the proper training. And at this point, there's some people that just go and apply and get their license and say, okay, I have a license, I can now do this. That's not the case. Again, you need training. You need years of training. This is not something that you really learn overnight. And people that have found this out now, when they are in trouble and they call somebody like ourselves to come in and to teach and train. I actually, believe it or not, now I have a lot of people that are wanting to retire and they want to bring their kids in and they want their kids to be taught by a third party person besides themselves. And we're finding all of a sudden there's been a lot of that. We've been contacted by a lot of operators to come in and help their kids, learn and really be successful. But
what are the biggest deficits in terms of what is it that people are? But I still want to sort of dig a little deeper. What is it that people are actually doing wrong? Is it how they manage expenses? Is it how they manage the care itself? Is it how they manage their team members, marketing? Where are the biggest deficits?
So we were in a portfolio not too long ago, and people don't adhere to budgets. There's no adherence to budgets. There's nobody really watching the store. There's, facilities, this happens sometimes in big portfolios that facilities just run independently. And the corporate people sometimes are not watching. They don't know what to watch for. Some people are put in corporate positions and they're not trained themselves. I'm going to tell you, 90% is education. Is teaching. We teach so much. We teach day by day. We teach how to control expenses. And oftentimes too, people bring in vendors that are, that are vendors to the industry, but they may not be getting, proper pricing. The pricing and the types of commodities and things that they're buying may not be proper for the types of care and the types of facilities that they're buying these things at. So there's really, it's education. It's really education. It's just, there's not a lot of people out there that are training and teaching, I would say, like they used to. I think the industry has become big. It's become a real estate play oftentimes. And it's really a care and a business issue. And I used to have one of my nurses that used to say, you used to have to be care solvent, because the nurses didn't understand what that meant. But you have to understand that it is a business, but you're providing care. And above all, you have to provide care, but you also have to understand that you can't go to the inventory or to the supply room and pull a handful of things out of the supply closet and, not account for it. There's all these things, all these little things that must be looked at. I mean, we get to the point where I teach people to draw lines on washing machines on how much soap to put in. I mean, because when we go in, we look at every little measure. And we teach every department, food and detergent, how much detergent to put in the washer, how high to put the clothes in the washer, how many pieces of garments do you put in the washer at a time, because there's effective, between the detergent and the whole thing, and obviously you get people in there to help your vendors too, to help do that, but it's a matter
Yeah.
of teaching and training.
So, Jane, can you put that comment, that one up again? So, I think this is a really good comment, and I'd love to have your thoughts on it. That in senior living, you've got these sort of three parts that all play together. You've got the real estate. So, and this would be, we look at the capital providers. Before we went on air this morning, we were talking a little bit about, REIT ownership and those kinds of things. And their primary goal is to make money for their investors, right? And I don't think that they, the capital providers sort of get slammed a lot as not caring about people. And I don't know that it's not that they don't exactly care, but money is their big thing. And then you've got the healthcare, the life part of it, where in senior living you're talking about ADLs and perhaps the housekeeping and some of the basics. In nursing home, you're talking about healthcare, and then you've got this last element that is the thing that senior living really loves, and that's this hospitality idea. So creating great life experiences. And so as you go in, how do you figure out how to balance all of that and make that as Catherine says, have aligned goals?
Well, interesting, because a lot of real estate people, when they go in, it's obviously about the real estate, it's about the balance sheet, it's about the financials and the whole bit. And yes, it is. But oftentimes they forget there's an operation there. And if you're not watching the operation, then you can fix every balance sheet you want. You can change numbers here and there. But if you're not actually in there fixing the operation and how the care is delivered, and look at how the staffing and how all the things are ordered and done, your operation doesn't work. And you're right. It's a matter of real estate, healthcare, and hospitality. And you have to be able to equally understand how they all hit together. Hospitality is, I think, more about marketing and more about, having the right people in the right positions. And you have to look at that too. That's also a matter of teaching and training. The business side, the financial side, you have to understand the operation. If you don't understand the operation in the day-to-day, again, you can move numbers around, and so many people, especially PropCo people and people that are even on the OpCo side, that don't really understand the in and out of the industry, which is something we do. We go in there and we teach how the finances mesh to the healthcare. And that is really where the what do you call it, hits the road. What's that expression?
Road, yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the nursing home industry specifically. It's an area to me that is incredibly frustrating. I just wrote an article, we haven't published it yet, talking a little bit about the nursing home. As you know, the Biden administration has put a big emphasis on nursing home quality, and the most recent push is to create more transparency in terms of ownership and related companies and those kinds of things. And the industry has largely said, yeah, that's okay, but it's a distraction because that doesn't really solve the problem. I think the bigger problem, the thing that I find frustrating for me, and as I talk to other industry people, is that we have this dichotomy of the industry complains constantly that they're on the verge of bankruptcy. You talked about this Bloomberg article that was from a few months ago that talked about, what was it, 34% of the nursing homes are on the verge of going out of business or something like that.
Yeah, three-quarters of the nursing homes say that.
Three-quarters of the nursing homes. So it's this huge number. And yet, every time a nursing home comes up for sale, at least in most states, multiple offers and the prices pushed to new levels, which suggests that somebody's making some money because they're not buying them out of the goodness of their heart. And so I guess my question to you is the nursing home industry in trouble, or are they just rolling in bucks and doing a little Chicken Little thing?
Well, and again, there's a lot of different views on that because last year the deal volume and everything was very high, and pricing, there was money all over the place, and there's even a lot of non-recourse financing and things like that. People have to get rid of their money. There's been a huge lockdown on that right now. And as a result, there used to be a lot of buyers out there, and there still are buyers out there. Don't get me wrong, but the prices have come down substantially. Costs are 41% higher this year than last year. And as a result, you don't have those same buyers that were out there last year buying at these high prices. Now everybody's coming in and wants a deal. So how are people making their money? I'm going to be really honest. A lot of people have money tied up in ancillary services. That's the way, because on the cost reports and all over, it shows that, many of the homes don't make money, but cash flow is not what it used to be. After this first quarter is over, you're going to see a lot of banks really stepping it up and coming down on covenant defaults and things for people to be watching their businesses more, to watch the operations and to watch what's happening. And they are going to get a little bit tougher than they were last year. And as a result of that, you're going to see some big change. I can tell you right now, we already know that we are going to be starting end of first quarter, we're going to be slammed because they're going to all of a sudden say, you got to get a consultant in there. You got to get somebody in there to help you figure this out. And that's what's going to happen. And so the sales are not as hefty, I'm going to say, as they were last year. There's a lot of stuff on the market. If you notice, a lot of people that can't make it right now, their stuff is on the market. People that are really grinding in there for the long haul, they've taken their stuff off and they're riding out the storm. Hopefully, maybe they're hoping maybe third quarter of this year, and some people are even saying into next year when this crazy resignation, of all these employees, when they start coming back. I have seen employees now come back. We're seeing a small amount of that coming back, but listen, that.
Oh man, is the worst thing in the world that happens when you lose your guests. I haven't had this happen in a long, long time, so I guess I will just I'll talk for a few minutes, and we'll hope that Suzanne makes it back in, and if she doesn't, then we will maybe cut it a little bit early. The thing that I wish I really wanted to do was we had this question of, do you give direction to staffing? And I think that is so important, and that we need to. Looks like we have her. There you go. We lost you.
I didn't know what happened.
Yeah. That happened. I was really glad you were going to do that. You should back up because I was going to have to go solo here for a little while, but I'm glad you're back.
Where did I stop? I was talking, and I think I was talking to myself.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. These things happen sometimes. It's always the adventure of going live, right? We were talking a little bit about sort of the viability, and how you were talking about how cash flow is really dried up this year, and that you're expecting to be slammed with new business.
Okay.
So do you think every nursing home that's challenged is fixable?
That's a good question. You know what? I think that every nursing home, there's a solution. Okay. Is every single nursing home fixable? Some may, and look, this is interesting because I've had 2 deals in the last year that even if you filled it up completely 100%, you'd never cash flow. And that's because debt service is just way too high. and the numbers just don't work. Like the facility's too small. And with our expenses now, the staffing, as I was saying, which I think you didn't hear me, is that staffing costs are through the roof. And that's caused, a lot of upheaval. And people that are holding on now and not selling have brought it back. They're in it for the long haul. And I think people are going to be coming back to work, hopefully, maybe third quarter, maybe next year. And then maybe you'll see more sales out there. But the people that are selling now are people that are really having a hard time. There's a lot of stuff on the market. And if you look at it, the stuff that's on the market is not stuff that's making a lot of money right now. If you take a look at some of the deals that are out there, everybody wants a bargain. So you got a lot of distressed investing out there. I get calls on a daily basis by distressed investors saying, we're looking for stuff. We know you get word of that all the time because I get brought in as a receiver and I'm very involved, a lot of times in the bankruptcy process when I see things like that in the restructuring arena.
One of the things I wonder about is how much of the challenge that we see has really been caused by the lending community, the capital community that have been too willing to put money into buildings and really put more money into them than they should have. That was prudent. Because I think what you talked about, right, is you have these buildings where you get them 100% full and you still can't make any money. When I was very, very young, when I worked for a company that doesn't exist anymore, and the company I was working for developed some really, really nice rental CCRCs that they financed using very expensive tax-exempt junk bonds issued. So it was a combination of for-profit, not-for-profit. And they were terrific buildings. They filled up and they just could not cash flow because of the cost of capital that was involved. And so do you see more of the capital providers just having to take a haircut to make these things work?
Yes, especially on 100% on the bonds. The bonds, because, and I actually had a talk with a bunch of distressed bondholders this week. And I said, they're not going to, these bondholders are never going to get the amount. And he said, they know that. They all know that. They're coming in there and they know they're going to take a haircut on it because, first of all, there's no recourse for anybody on that. And all they have to do, is pretty much, write them down, but they got to go through Emma and they've got to go through all the proper categories when they're going to do that. However, you still have to be responsible and you still have to, make sure that you do the best you can. Now, on the CCRC model, that, as you said, it is a tough model. I don't know that model is really ever going to work because if you look at the history of CCRCs, they've all gone in and out of bankruptcy, some of them several times. And I'm not sure that model, I know many of these models where when they're selling them, when the bondholders are selling them to private companies now, they're going in as straight leases, and they're getting rid of that whole buyback.
Well, the two I was like in my, so this has been a long time ago, decades ago. This is when I was like my early 30s, right? And these properties were both, they were CCRC model in that they had independent assisted living and nursing homes, but they were rental properties. They actually weren't front end. I do know that my good friend John Cochran believes that, at least I wouldn't say that I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that he believes that largely the world of standalone, freestanding CCRC, single site CCRCs is going to continue to get more and more challenging because we have scale. So it's really interesting. Do you think we have too many nursing homes in the country?
So, it's funny because how many years ago, last 5 years, every single block, there was an assisted living facility being built, brand new assisted living facility. I think we have a lot of nursing homes that are beyond their time. I think that they're old. They need to be redone, remodeled, replaced. Do I think we have too many? I think we have a baby boom that's coming back. Whether or not people are going to come into nursing homes, look, a lot of people want to stay home, and I'll tell you, I think that a lot of people my age, they want to be in a social setting. They like being together with their friends. My parents' age, they didn't want to go to a nursing home. All they wanted to do was to go home. So I think right now, I think we have a lot of nursing homes that if they're too old, they just need to be redone. So I think at this point, maybe we do have too many nursing homes that are out there that, and I think the government feels that way. And I think that that's their way of kind of rationing the facilities by putting a lot of pressure on regulatory wise, transparency wise, all of this. So I think the government needs to work with the nursing home owners, the government, and the whole industry. Remember COVID, perfect example. Say you had a staff member that worked on the block in a hospital. You were a hero in the morning. In the afternoon, you go work in a nursing home and you're a terrible person because you work in a nursing home. It just hasn't changed. The media has allowed this to happen where nursing homes get the raw end of everything. And I think that until we can really have good marketing and good positive, things saying about the nursing home industry, I think we're it's tough. We got to get the politicians to hang on.
Yeah. So, Catherine, you're right. There's a huge difference between nursing home and senior living, but I also worry a lot as we take that approach that we sort of pretend like that nursing homes or senior living's embarrassing relative, but yet they're still part of the family. And I guess one of the things that I really struggle with, Susie, is that the harsh reality is that there are an awful lot of substandard nursing homes out there. Not the majority, but there are more than we are willing to admit and talk about. And that as an industry, and this is also, it's not as big a problem on the senior living side, but the same principle applies, is that we end up in this situation where we are so afraid of not wanting to look bad that we're not willing to call out bad behavior.
Well,
but
agree.
And that's, I think, is a huge problem.
No, I think I'm going to agree with you on that. And I'm also going to agree when people have problems, they don't admit they have problems. And that's the problem. They don't admit that they need help and they don't get help. And as a result of that, then they operate these facilities and, you're right. And I know too many facilities out there that need help and they don't ask for the help or they don't get the help themselves. And, they try to squeeze every penny, which look, that happens. And, we just need people to accept the fact that we've got to put more money in to fix the problems and really go in and really fix the problems.
Yeah, and I think that so much of this has, particularly on the nursing home side, so much of this is about how do you create a more collaborative relationship between the government and the operators, because today it is so adversarial. I am convinced that we need more money for nursing homes. I was in Atlanta 4, 5, 6 months ago, visited Deep Katu at his 3 nursing homes. They serve primarily a Medi-Cal, Medicaid population. Medi-Cal is a California program. And they do a great job with the financial resources they get, but they just simply do not get enough money to be able to do the things they really would like to do.
Well,
And yet at the same, let me finish one sentence and I'll turn it over. That yet at the same time, I look at operators in a number of states that are just known to be bad actors, and if you increase the reimbursement to them, most of that money would just go back in their pocket, and the quality of care would still be crappy.
And you're right. I mean, I hate to agree with you on certain things, but let me tell you a funny story. In the state of Illinois, I was asked to speak before the legislature, and I walked in and I turned around and looked at everybody there. And, in the legislature, even in DC, they're all busy doing their own thing. And when you come up there, they don't even want to give you your time. They want to do that. I turned around to the audience and I said, excuse me, how many of you are staying in a hotel tonight? And they all looked up from what they were doing. I said, no, really, how many of you? I'm assuming most of you. How much, what kind of services are you getting in that hotel? Are you walking in, you have your TV, you got your towels, you walked in the door, right? I said, how much are you paying for that hotel tonight? $300, $400 a night? Really? I said, I run nursing homes in the state of Illinois, and I'm lucky if I get $100 a day to provide 24-hour care, 3 meals a day, yada, 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 yada. All of a sudden, there was silence in the room because they pay prisoners, and they pay for prisoners and pay other people the higher reimbursements. So I agree with you to a degree. There are many, many states that the reimbursement, California, Illinois, Iowa, where I can name a few where the reimbursements just don't cover the cost of care. And You're right. If they would increase the Medicaid rate, will the bad operators, I don't know how you're going to call them, will, as you say, go and take more money? Some of them will. It is a tough. The problem is you always have a few bad actors that make everybody else have to pay for it. But, it is true that Medicaid reimbursement does not cover your cost of care.
Yeah. Well, listen, we are about out of time here. Actually, we're a little over time.
Oh.
So
Yes.
How do we, let's pop up your contact information. So we had a couple of interesting comments. So if you're looking for, if the worst is happening to you, reach out. Maybe smarter though is if you're just struggling before the worst happens, reach out and get some help, so that, because this is not just economic, it's actually about making a difference in the lives of human beings, the residents you care for, the families, and the team members. And so there's so much opportunity out there for us to be better. I know that we are often seen as a critic for the industry, and I suppose that's true. But we are a critic because we know what it can be and how it can just completely make the world a better place for older people. Susie, thank you so much for what you're doing to make the world of senior living better. This is great information. I'm actually going to, normally I never do this, but we have a blockbuster story we're going to do in, hold up some fingers, 2 weeks, Jada, 3 weeks. That is going to 3 weeks that you are going to want to watch. I'm going to tell you, it's, if you guys remember back when the emeritus senior living stuff got creamed on public and PBS, this is really a bigger story than that needs to be talked about. So you have to watch for that. Thank you very much for joining us. And so you'll just hang on for a second after our outro and we'll just touch bases.